What's up, owners? It's your host, Ray Grandoit, Own Your Inspiration, where we take ownership, accountability, and responsibility of our lives. And today we have a special guest, Amber Reese. And she's a podcast host, a YouTuber, and most importantly, she's an encourager. And at the end of the day, she believes the purpose of her life is to uplift people. And I'm honored to have her on Own Your Inspiration. Amber, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me, Ray. It's lovely to be here.
For those who don't know Amber Reese, can you please let them know who is Amber Reese? What is the story of Amber Reese?
Well, for those that don't know me, I'm just a girl who just so happens to have cerebral palsy, spastic to be exact. I'm just your typical normal girl. Like, I like to hang out with friends. I do my podcast. I'm family oriented. God is definitely at the center of my life. So, it's basically what it is. Basically, to put it simply short, I'm just your roundaway girl in my LL Cool J voice.
Round away, girl.
So,
So that's amazing. So you mentioned God in your life. I think I seen something. You're pregnant, and Jesus is the father.
it was a joke. I'm
I'm
not
just
pregnant.
joking. I'm joking. I'm poking at you. I'm poking at
I'm
you.
pregnant.
The
No,
Immaculate Conception.
I'm still waiting. Still waiting for the right one. So,
That's good. Hey, it's a step by step, a day by day process to find the right one, and he is the right one at the end of the day, no matter how we look at it.
yes. Yes, he
And so
is.
you said cerebral policy. So can you tell me a little bit about that for those who don't know? Because I don't know anything about that. And
Well,
what is
for
that?
those that don't know what cerebral palsy is, it's a neurological disorder. Basically, you lack oxygen to the brain when you're born. Basically, my mom was 29 weeks. For those that don't know, that equals to 6 months when she had me. She had me via emergency C-section. And yeah, and I didn't get diagnosed until I was 3.
Wow.
So,
So
yeah.
what kind of challenges someone who has cerebral palsy? What kind of challenges do they have?
It depends because there's 4 different types. Spastic is the most common one, but basically you wouldn't be able to speak, talk, eat. Because some people that have cerebral palsy, depending on the severity, they have a feeding tube. You have to use a talk in a box, but that helps you talk. So.
Okay, so it varies.
and you
So
can't walk and you can't walk. But if you have the tendon surgery where they lengthen your tendons in the back of your leg, if you bend the tree, so to speak, when they're younger, you know that old saying, you
mm,
can walk with crutches or even with a cane. I just so happen to use a wheelchair, but I can still move and everything. It depends on the situation.
okay, so it varies depending on the person. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what gave you the gumption or the courage to start a podcast, to be wanting to uplift people, wanting to position yourself in a way where you're making a difference when you yourself have challenges and you still want to make a difference in the world? What inspired you to do that?
Honestly, it all started 5 years ago, back in 2018, when I met this young lady who just happened to be a devoted Christian. Shout out to Ebony P. Jones. I had came across one of her YouTube videos. Somebody shared it, and I was like, I watched it. I'm like, who is this lady? And someone just told me to inbox her, and I thanked her for being an inspiration to people like myself who have different abilities, because ain't no diss in our ability. And she just, from there, I started writing for her website. And then fast forward to a year later, back in 2022, because I was doing live shows on Instagram, and my friend Freddie, shout out to my friend Freddie, he was like, "You got it." He's like, "I'm gonna talk to my old boss because he did a show at the studio where I work now 10 years ago," and he was like, "I'm gonna get you your own show." So the our boss, Mr. John, he had me do a trial run. He had me host a show, and then from there, he was like, "You can get your own show," because I did 4 episodes, and then he let me get my own show. So from there, birthed the Aaron perspective, and I wanted to give my take on life through my eyes with having a disability, and just encourage people because that's what we need to get through. Because even though I glamorize it and you get to see the aftermath of what you see on social media, it's not easy. There are days where I literally want to cry and scream, but I'm just grateful that God blessed me to do what I'm able to do. So, yeah.
That's very encouraging because I think a lot of the times people think that you know we don't go through things, and especially for me, I can say, they see me smiling, see me doing these positive things, but I have my days where things can be difficult. And uh, what encourages me is, of course, my faith. However, people like yourself as well that have a positive attitude and also want to spread a positive message definitely is like the icing on the cake. And so I'm very grateful for people like you that
Thank
want to
you.
spread a positive message to the world. So tell me a little bit about that process of doing the 4 episode with Mr. Johnny. He gave you the shot to do your 4 shows.
Well, the
Can you tell
first,
me
the
tell me a little bit
step.
about the your process of interviewing and also your attitude while interviewing and then your guests, and like how is it on the back end, because people just see the front end and they see the show but they don't
Well,
understand what it takes,
I
and then
wish
doing that with your ability.
I wish my friend Freddie was here to tell you because the first episode I was very nervous. I was very nervous. He on the other hand was like he's been doing this for 10 years, so he just came in there like Brian Gumbo, and I was just like, I was like, I don't know. I was like, this is very different than YouTube because I felt like with doing the show, I don't know if you felt this way either. It's like when I was on you doing YouTube, like I could be myself, be more free. But doing a show, you kind of have to be more politically, correct about things and conduct yourself in certain ways. So it was very hard for me to kind of balance the two at first. But then as time went on, and then Freddie was like, "Yeah, you got this in the can, bro." He was like, "We in there like somewhere." So for me, it was just getting over my nervousness because it was a lot to take in. It was a lot to take in. But I think when I first did my first Amber Eats episode, that's the day when Mr. John was like, "Yeah, you can do this." He was like, "We gonna give you your own show." I was just, you got me to have my own show? Like this is that was big for me. Like I literally wanted to cry. And not only do I do the podcast, but I also do another show for them called Sound Off, and I have my segment Amber Eats, where I go into like new restaurants, interview the owner, try food because I'm a foodie. I love food, so it just
so
goes hand in hand.
so what is the sound off?
Sound Off. Well, that kind of was a show that they already had, but they didn't have a host for it. So when I came along, that's where I did my 4 shows on. But Amber Eats didn't come until after I started the podcast and I came up with this idea. And when he asked me to host Sound Off now, I was like, oh, we could put that for Sound Off, you know?
Okay.
So, sound off is kind of, I kind of want to introduce like new places and new things because here in Bridgeport during the summer we have concerts at McClevey Green where we meet like downtown Bridgeport and they have like concerts and stuff like every Thursday. So I kind of wanted to open it up to trying new things and seeing different things versus the podcast where it's just a sit down conversation inspiring people. So
So that's very dynamic. So you're telling me you got the podcast, the sound off, and then the Amber Eats. We got to give you a round of applause for
thank
that because
you.
it's very, very, very diverse in a lifestyle. Um, I would say,
And
and
I'm
so you
still
just
trying to do YouTube as well because I have a YouTube channel, Goddess Has Spoken TV. That came after I did work with Ebony because after I started writing for her, like back in 2017, I met this lady, Miss Octavia. Shout out to Miss Octavia, who has a son who has epilepsy and cerebral palsy, and she came up with a line, sorry, for adaptable clothing, and she called it Fashion No Boundaries. So then she wanted people with all different types of different abilities to vlog, and they asked me to be a part of it. So when I seen that, you know, my charismaticness and how I work the camera. And I was like, people really love me. I said, that's what I decided. Let me capitalize off of this and make a YouTube channel. And then a friend of mine, shout out to Keita, she was like, why don't you call it Goddess Has Spoken TV? I was like, yeah, that's dope. Because I do say hi. You know, my chair, you know, is big. When it rolls through the street, people see me. They know. So yeah, Goddess Has Spoken TV was birthed 4 years ago. Sorry, and that's how that came about.
now that's amazing. I'm glad that you said it was birth because I think no matter what we do in life, it's definitely a process. And when it's birth, it's just like a child. It has different stages, and it also has failures. And I look at failures as first attempt of learning, and it's not something that it just
Yeah,
takes off.
it
It's a
doesn't.
process,
Yeah,
and you just never
yeah, and
know.
that's something that I had to learn because to go back to your question of how I do interviews, I used to do them. I used to write everything down, and Freddie's like, "No, that's not natural. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to write everything down." But I guess I did that because I get that from my mom. She whenever she was doing something important, she always would write it every so often, then go back and change things until you got the final thing you want to say. So that's very much where I got that from. And it wasn't until recently I did another interview and the girl was like, "Oh no, I don't write my stuff down. You get the natural and rawness." So I said, let me try that because I would get frustrated like when things wouldn't go the way how I wanted it to go, even if there was something wrong with the sound. And Freddie's like, "You have to calm down. It's okay." Like I remember when I did the Fashion No Boundaries reunion episode, and when we went to go do the second part, we couldn't get the audio right, and I literally just remember just breaking down, crying like, "Oh my god, they're gonna talk about me. This was supposed to be my full circle moment. Like, what am I gonna do?" And Freddie was like, "Hey, how many people could pull a podcast off from home?" He was like, "Do you know how special you are? And the fact that you're not even in a studio right now, you don't really have all the equipment, but you're able to pull that off." He was like, "That's all you right there." He was like, "Freak what everybody else has to say." I'm not gonna say what he exactly said, but you can do it. So for me, that's when it clicked that day. Like, you don't have to write everything down. Everything's not gonna go as perfect. As long as people are gonna adhere to what they want to adhere to. If they don't feel it, then that's okay too. But your content is you. It's you at the end of the day. So that's something that I really learned within the past year of having the podcast and doing all this. Because, like you said, it was a process, and I feel like it changed me in a lot of ways. It gave me a sense of purpose because my grandfather, whom I love dearly, he's no longer, here. So he always
What did your
said,
yeah, what did your grandfather tell you? That was actually one of my questions. What did your grandfather tell you?
he always used to say, we are here to fulfill a purpose in life.
No, 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 no,
So
no. What did he say before that? See, I know. See, I know. I do my research.
what did he say before that? I'm trying to think.
Everyone will not always like you.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like once I got into the whole purpose thing, so from to go back as long as I could remember it, ever since I started talking, which I started talking at 3 and haven't shut up since. But he just always instilled in me that we are here to fulfill a purpose in life, and whatever you do, just make sure you do it with a passion. And my mom too. So that for me, because for a lot of years I was quiet. I never, like, yeah, you seen me post pictures on social media, but but the whole YouTube thing was like, I don't know if people really gonna, feel what I'm saying. But when I got into it, it was just like, oh yeah, people like me, and that I kind of took that from Fashion No Boundaries, because my mom used to say, "Now you see how everybody's video is so normal." She just like, you always gotta be extra. You just always gotta be just. But that's always been me, because every time she would pull out a camera, me and my brother were always in it. So it's like, I've never been camera shy, but I am shy to a certain extent, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, how many siblings do you have?
I have two, but my sister passed away 3 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but she's still here, so I consider it's three. So
So, have you ever experienced what your grandfather said as far as not everybody will like you, and that's okay. Your job here on earth is to fulfill this purpose. So, have you experienced discontentment or people disliking you for you being you and you doing what you're doing despite your abilities?
yeah, cause growing up I was like the nerd, but I was like the cool nerd. Like I could be cool with you, but kids didn't like the fact that I was very intelligent. Even teachers, I remember. Because for those that don't know, for kids with disability, you are put in special ed class. So I got to do mainstream classes in the second grade, but my regular teacher, which she dealt with the special ed class, I can remember being in third grade, and they called my mom to come up to the school because they wanted to tell her, could I stop raising my hand so much? Uh, I was very shocked because this teacher had my sister as well, because my sister was developmentally delayed, but she was considered the high functioning. So I was very shocked when I got the news from my mom that I had to come up to the school today. I was like, no. She was like, baby, she was like, I support you. I've always told you to, do well in school, because I, listen, student of the month, any type of a word. The only class I really did special ed was math because I'm not so good with math. Uh, but anything else, I excelled. So for me, when she told me that's like what, like Miss Embro said that, and I don't know if she's still living, but that really hurt. You know what I'm saying? That really hurt me as a kid because it's like you would think that you would want me to raise my hand. But I get it. Everybody else needed a turn. You know, kids used to tease me. Can remember being in junior high and we had these things called merits, and you got it every time, you know, you answered a question correctly, you did something around the classroom. So me, I was that kid that was all like, ooh, ooh. And if a kid was taking too long, it's like, oh, just let me answer. But you know, kids used to be like, you know, why she always got to go? Like, you know,
Yeah.
everybody else ain't smart. Everybody else ain't smart like you. And it's just like, I'm just here to do what I need to do. Number one, because my mama, she always instilled, because my mom was a single mom, don't have them call me. Because if they call me, you're behind is grass. So me, my sister, and my brother, we was on a mission. You know, we the kid. Everybody else running around the classroom. Mommy come up there, just at the desk, hands folded, not doing nothing. I had one kid. My mom was on her way up to the school. The kid was like, "You not playing with us?" I said, "No, my mama coming. I can't be in trouble. I can't." Don't have and my mom is 6 feet, okay? Seven
Wow.
7 feet in heels. So it's like imagine, and she's a retired CO. So my mom ain't play. But my mom's always been like the tough cookie of the bunch. Cause my grandparents, they had 9 children, buried five. So she definitely, you know, didn't play, especially when it came to her kids and education. Because she always used to tell us, now, when you go outside these doors, you represent me and what I'm about. Don't have them call me. So I was very much that student that had the bubbly personality, was always, you know, funny, but I always made sure grades wasn't tip top. Now, high school, the last 2 years, fell off, but, you know, it, I love school. You know, I love to read because my mom would always read to me at night. So it it was and it was my way of escaping because I couldn't do everything that the other kids could do, like jump and jump rope and all that stuff. So it's like, here, you know, read a book. So that's how that came about.
So, did reading books and you excelling in all these things, did it help you with your imagination
Oh
and
yeah, I
your?
definitely had a vivid imagination. My mom, if my mom was here right now, she'll tell you. It's like the things that I would say. You know, it's like I had this old soul, and I think that comes a lot with being around my grandparents because when I was younger, well, actually, no, when my brother was a baby, my mom moved back in with her parents. So we got to grow up in the house that my grandparents had. So being around them and then being around mommy and then even to my dad, because my dad wasn't in the picture, but you know, we knew who he was and he would come by. So being around them and just the environment, you know, that had a lot to do with it as well because my mom ain't playing. We had dictionaries, we had the synonyms, the antonyms book, and my mom ain't play that. She had me in summer school, even though I got good grades, but she didn't want my brain to turn into mush. She would make us write book reports. Okay, I used to. My brother used to be like, "Can you write for me? Cause I don't want to do this." I said, "Do I have to read the book?" And he was like, "Well, in order to do the book report, you got to read the book. Can you do it for me or not?" So That's how my mom was with us. So, did we hate it? Yes. But for me, that kind of helped my imagination to escape from the pain. So
So who would you say right now is your favorite or one of your favorite abilities influencers that has continued to spark like more of imagination, more ideas, and more
I, I'm
courage to
just
keep going?
gonna okay. This is gonna be from least to greatest. I'm gonna have to go with my greatest first. I don't know if you heard of Lolo, Sitting Pretty.
Yeah, I recently I'm
Lolo,
new.
that has been my girl. A friend of mine, her name is Olivia. She put me on to her, and I've been a fan of her since 2016. I've even had Freddie actually reached out to her management to try and get her on the podcast. So hopefully that interview will happen one day. But yes, her, Ebony, I just love for what they stand for, that even though they may have a disability, they still out there thriving and doing things. And Ebony, because she also has a disability, but she, serves God with her whole heart. And, she always tries to encourage, myself and other people in the differently able community that we could, you know. So it's them two. And then also, I'm gonna say, I don't know if you heard of her. Her name is Alana, and her page is called Alana So Different. But she has she has a spinal cord injury, but she's like into fashion and things like that, and I like what she does too. So those would have to be like my top three. Oh, and also Keith Jones, who has cerebral palsy. I just got to interview him. As a matter of fact, I met him at a convention back in 2009 when I was a sophomore. When I was a sophomore in a high school, and he told me when we got to go backstage that I was gonna do great things.
Yeah,
So
I know Keith Jones. He's a good friend of mine.
for me to be able to have him on there to see me now, because he saw me at 16 not really knowing which way I was gonna go, because honestly, growing up, I wanted to be a lawyer because my mom, as I told you, was a CO and my father was a cop. So I wanted to help the criminals. So it's like I wanted to do my part. But then when I got to high school, and with having cerebral palsy, your hands, they tire easily when you write. So what they had for me was a tape recorder, and I remember my OT therapist giving it to me and having me try it out, and I was going to interviewing people, and I was like, I could do this. But I also saw myself being a journalist because my grandfather, we used to always stay up late at night because I slept in between my grandparents for 5 years. So I, would stay up with my grandpa while he'd be midnight snacking and we'd be watching the news. And I said, Grandpa, one day I'm gonna sit in the exact same spot where Rod Abrams sat. Watch. And he was like, "Oh, you think you're gonna do that one day?" I'm like, "I can do it. I can do it." So that kind of, but that didn't really kick into high school. And then I didn't end up going to college, but I still feel like I did great for myself because I have, the podcast, YouTube. So doesn't mean school's not on the back burner, because it is. And I want to make that happen. But I think I've done quite well for myself.
Absolutely. It's just one day at a time. And it's one of those things where we can do what we're given and we work with what we have. So, what would
Right.
be your encouraging words for somebody who is fresh to a spinal cord injury or a wheelchair? How would you encourage them to fulfill their purpose or
I
to
say to anybody with a
accept?
different ability, whether if it's spinal cord injury, whether if it's CP, whether if it's epilepsy, etc. Just do you. And those that like it, well, you'll attract it. Those that don't, forget about them. Just keep doing you. And it's life is a process. Not every day is gonna be perfect, but as long as you get up, have a smile on your face, you'll excel.
There you have it, folks. That's Amber Reese. She's definitely owning it. You need to check her out with her podcast and YouTube and join the Am fam and keep doing what you're doing. Amber, thank you for being on my show. It was definitely an honor.
Oh, most definitely. Thank you so much for having me, Ray. And I can't wait to get you on my podcast because I've seen your work too, and I love it. I love people that love to encourage people, even though despite that we may have disabilities, we still go out there and make it happen. So thank you for doing what you do.
My pleasure. There you have it. Thank you for owning it. Just own your inspiration, and we're going to keep owning it from the top to the bottom, round and round. We're not going to stop and continue to do great things. God bless you. Until next time.